I had it all planned. I was going to head out early, keep my drinking in check, and dance the night away with my friends at the gay party, then be home. After all, it was Sunday, and Monday was always less than welcoming. I thought everything would be just fine. But then he showed up. In the middle of that colorful sea of people, as I was losing myself to the pop music with my friends, like we were in some music video, our eyes met, and there was a little spark. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to think. Maybe he wasn't really looking at me, or maybe his gaze was on one of the other guys, or perhaps he just liked my outfit. But with every exchanged look, my uncertainty faded and my confidence grew. There he was, his hair in a bun, his style effortlessly cool, dancing shyly, yet giving me looks that hit me hard. I'm not usually shy when it comes to flirting, but somehow his shyness made me second-guess myself. Before I knew it, we were caught in a junior high kind of moment, with friends whispering, "Hey, tell your friend that I like him," and a circle of onlookers waiting for us to break the ice. Then, just as suddenly, he stopped looking my way. At least not when I was looking at him. Maybe the closeness made him even shyer. But after a while, he regained his composure and came over, saying it was his friend's birthday, so I could congratulate her. He even mentioned it to everyone, making it seem like it wasn't just an excuse to talk to me. Encouraged by that small moment, I struck up a conversation. "How did you not remember it was your friend's birthday? Such a bad friend." I joked. We ended up talking about random, trivial things, nothing important, but it kept the conversation flowing, and it kept us close. Still, we needed a little extra push. That's when my friend Ben appeared, telling us that the birthday girl was dancing on stage with someone. "Hey, it's your friend there. Record her," Ben shouted. I almost wanted to strangle him for interrupting our moment, even if it was just a minor interruption. But then, in a split second, I went from wanting to kill him to falling for this guy completely. "Hey, you know what? I'll record her, and then, well, I'll send it to you, and you can forward it to him. Easier, right?" He said with a blink, then excused himself. That was my shot. "So, I think you have to give me your number then, right? I mean, so I can send you the video." "Of course," I said. He smiled, nodded, and typed his number into my phone. I quickly sent him a "Hey, it's Harry" from the party, so he'd have my number too. From that moment on, our conversation started to flow. We talked about how amazing it was to be in a place so free, so different from the stiff vibe of straight parties. And while he racked up 1,000 points with me for saying those incredible things, which really should be the norm, but in our homophobic society, it isn't, I took the chance to be direct and asked if he was straight, just like me. In that context, it made perfect sense. Really, the respectful thing to do. To my relief, he said yes. For a brief moment, I worried he'd think otherwise, but we were so into this connection that everything else faded away. I reassured him, "Of course I know. I saw the way you looked at me for a while, but I just had to be sure." When he heard me say that, he got a little shy again. Or was it my imagination? He half joked, half pleading for confirmation. He laughed and insisted it wasn't his imagination. And just like that, our connection took off, lasting all night between dances, kisses, and endless talks. A night I never wanted to end. At some point later, we found ourselves sitting at the bar, drinks in hand, with the music still pounding around us. I was relaxed, pleasantly tipsy, feeling like everything had finally fallen into place. Then, he leaned in a bit closer, fingers playing with the rim of his glass, voice softer than before. "You know, it's funny," he said. I tilted my head. "What is?" His gaze locked onto mine, and suddenly the atmosphere shifted. The music still roared. People continued dancing and laughing around us. But in that moment it felt like it was just the two of us. "I know something about you," he said, his eyes flickering with an unreadable emotion. "Something you probably don't even know yourself." A nervous laugh escaped me. "Oh yeah? Like what?" He swirled his drink slowly, as if gathering his thoughts. "Your ex-boyfriend, John." Everything inside me froze. Just the name sent a jolt through my chest, like a ghost whispering in the dark. I gripped my glass tighter. "What about him?" I managed to ask, though every part of me was alert. He exhaled slowly. "He didn't just disappear, Harry." My stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" He glanced around, as if to ensure no one else was listening, then leaned in closer. I work at St. Vincent's Hospital. You know, where Robert is the head surgeon. My pulse raced. Yeah. He paused, studying my face. John worked there too, and he saw something. I couldn't breathe. He found out who your real father is. I stared, my mind reeling. What? He didn't flinch. Robert isn't your father, Harry. Your real dad was James Smith. That name hit me like lightning. A name buried deep in my family's past. A man I'd never been allowed to ask about. I swallowed hard. That doesn't make any sense. His voice dropped to a whisper. John confronted Robert about it, and then he was gone. I felt a chill spread through me. I tried to speak, to ask something, anything, but my voice wouldn't come. Then he leaned back, watching me carefully. He's out there, Harry. He faked his death, for a reason. And when he's ready, he'll come for you. The room felt unbearably loud and hot. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. In that moment, I wished more than ever that I had stuck to my original plan, because nothing could have prepared me for what was unfolding that night. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The weight of his words crashed into me, scattering my thoughts like shattered glass. John confronted Robert about it, and then he was gone. I gripped the edge of the bar, my knuckles turning white. The music, the crowd, the warmth of the alcohol in my veins. None of it mattered anymore. My entire reality had just been torn apart. James Smith, a name I'd barely heard, buried under years of silence. My mother never spoke about him. Anytime I had asked, she had brushed it off. He's gone. That's all you need to know. And Robert? He was the man who raised me. The man I called Dad. The man I trusted. A sick feeling churned in my gut. John saw something. John, the man who had vanished without a trace. I'd spent months looking for him, calling hospitals, filing missing person reports, begging for answers that never came. I had convinced myself that he had left. Maybe he had moved on. Maybe he had found someone else. I had told myself any story except the one that was staring me in the face right now. Robert killed him. Or at least, Robert tried to. I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper. John is alive. The guy, this stranger who had somehow unraveled my entire life in a single night, nodded. He didn't die that night. He barely made it out. But he knew if he stayed, if he tried to contact you, Robert would find him and finish the job. My hands shook. My mind was screaming at me to deny it, to reject this entire conversation as some sick joke. But deep down, I already knew it was true. John had seen something, and my mother Scarlett had lied to me. All these years, she had stood by Robert's side, had smiled at me, had told me that Robert was my father. But she knew. She had always known. A memory hit me like a knife to the gut. Her voice, calm and firm when I was little. Harry, sometimes people leave and it's better not to ask questions. It's just the way life is. Had she been talking about James Smith? Had she been warning me even back then? I clenched my jaw. Where's John now? The guy exhaled, glancing over his shoulder like he was afraid someone might hear us. He's hiding. He can't come back until he knows it's safe. I let out a bitter laugh. Safe. After everything I had just learned, after everything I had spent my life believing, safe wasn't a word that existed anymore. I grabbed my phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. I need to talk to him. The guy hesitated. Harry, if you try to reach him, Robert will know. He has people everywhere. My blood ran cold. Robert, the man who had raised me, the man who had killed my father, and my mother who had helped him do it. I thought about every birthday, every holiday, every time Robert had put a hand on my shoulder and called me son. Lies. All of it. I stood abruptly, the bar stool scraping against the floor. I needed to get out of there. I needed air, space, time, but there was no time. Robert knew. Robert always knew. If he had killed once, if he had tried to kill John, then what would he do now that I knew the truth? The guy's voice cut through the pounding in my head. John left something for you. I turned to him, my pulse hammering. What? He reached into his pocket and slid a folded piece of paper into my hand. It was worn, like it had been carried for months, waiting for the right moment. I opened it, my eyes scanning the hurried, desperate handwriting. Harry, if you're reading this, then you finally know. I couldn't tell you. I wanted to, but I couldn't. You need to leave now. Robert won't stop. Not until you're dead too. Don't trust anyone. A shiver ran through me. John had been on the run for years, and now it was my turn. I crumpled the note, my heart slamming against my ribs. I had spent my whole life believing one thing. Now, I knew the truth. And the truth was going to get me killed.